I'm going to start here, and let me begin by introducing all the team that is here. At the far end of the table is Berlin and Mary Alice Cisneros, who are the leaders of American Sunrise, the nonprofit that we founded some years ago. Berlin is the president of it, CEO of it. Francesca Rios with the organization Puerto Rico Rises, which is a national effort to raise money for the Puerto Rican tragedy. She's been kind enough to join us this morning.
Donating goods. We're donating goods.
Donating
No,
goods,
we're not
that's right.
donating money.
Right, they have pallets of goods. Okay.
Right.
Also present with us this morning is Liliana McKenzie and her husband Chris. He just returned from Puerto Rico last night, so he is sort of the best first-person witness here today. And he brought back Liliana's mother when he came back. And so we're grateful to him for arriving at midnight last night and being with us here this morning. Also is Beto Altamirano, the CEO of City Flag, a social communications system that exists in our community that's going to be deployed here to try to communicate with people across the country and make the call that we're articulating here more than just a San Antonio event, but use San Antonio as the platform for a call that reaches to other communities that are looking for ways how they can contribute in this situation. So we'll talk all about that in a moment. I just wanted to introduce everyone, and we'll have everybody play a role. Let me just say, many San Antonians have indicated that they're shocked by what they have seen in Puerto Rico. I certainly am. This is not an ordinary disaster. This is a monster disaster. The scale of it, and the number of people that are impacted, the level of devastation. When a country of 3.5 million people is without electricity to the extent that Puerto Rico is, it touches every dimension of human life. It's almost defies your imagination in a modern society that it can function without electricity. Someone the other day said, well, you can use cell phones. You can only use cell phones until they run down, and then you have to recharge them with electricity. There is a shortfall of fuel to move goods into the interior by trucks and vehicles, and perhaps most alarming is the shortfall in water. People are looking for ways to even dig wells to find water in villages, and some of those are not clean water, certainly not purified water, which then leads to cholera. I have personally, as a former Secretary of HUD, been witness to major scale disasters. President Clinton asked me to be the point person for the federal government during Hurricane Andrew recovery. I saw firsthand what that hurricane did in South Florida, and then was on the ground for a month in Los Angeles after the Northridge earthquake, where 30,000 people were out of their homes. So I'm no novice with respect to major natural disasters, but I have never seen anything like the tape that I have seen, the video, the last days of what's happening in Puerto Rico. So as I say, many San Antonians see that also and are wanting to find a way to plug in. How can we help? And there are many efforts across the country in this area, in this era of social media. There's 1,000 points of light. Literally, people can start up something and act. We felt compelled because a number of people were saying, well, what are we doing from the San Antonio community, from the Latino community in the United States? And I'm plugged into a whole series of organizations, from Habitat for Humanity to the New America Alliance to the U.S.-Mexico Foundation, many. And I want to figure out a way to generate as many of those organizations' involvement in this Puerto Rico response. As I say, we hope to make this a platform for a larger effort. We are going to focus on raising funds, not goods, because of the logistical challenges of getting goods to Puerto Rico in urgency. You've seen some of the issues related to shipping goods there, and some of the issues related to having goods distributed to the poorest neighborhoods and communities once they're on the island. We think it's, from our standpoint, quicker to ask people for donations. Now, to do that, you have to have vetted credible organizations to receive the money and give assurances that it's being distributed appropriately. Our focus will be an organization called Comprometidos. I can spell that for you later. But it's a business-oriented group in Puerto Rico, highly credible. Some of the most respected people in Puerto Rico have organized it. And we're going to insist on two things. We want to earmark the funds we raise for medical supplies as opposed to generic supplies, badly needed, particularly in hospitals that are just now getting up and running. And secondly, we want to go beyond San Juan and make sure that this reaches some of the small villages and mountain communities that have otherwise been almost completely cut off. So I don't know how much we'll be able to raise through this process, but whatever it is, those are the earmarks, if you will, that we'd like to put on it. The technique that we're using is to have a community event next Saturday. It's important that this continues for a long time. This is a response that needs to occur over a period of weeks and months and even years. So even though it may not be front news next Saturday, we want to remind San Antonio that this is still going forward. So we will have a community forum at the University of Texas San Antonio Downtown Auditorium at 10 a.m. next Saturday, and bring as many community-based organizations and others who want to come together. We're relying heavily on the Puerto Rican community of San Antonio, which is quite substantial. There are thousands of Puerto Rican families in San Antonio. We have one of those families represented here today, and they have an association called the Asociación Heroica de Puerto Riqueños is one, and then Francesca representing Puerto Rico Rising. But the heart of this effort will be to give San Antonio-based Puerto Ricans, we have many professionals, doctors and professionals who we will want to bring into the process next week.